Hey, brand builder, Rory Vaden here. Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to this interview. We are so excited to bring you this information and wanted to let you know that, hey, there's no sales pitch coming from anything that we do. This is all our value add to you and the community. However, if you are somebody who is looking for specific strategies on how to build and monetize your personal brand, we would love to talk to you. And we offer a free call to everyone that's interested in getting to know us and is willing to give us a chance to get to know them and share a little bit about what we do. So if you're interested in taking us up on a free strategy call, you can do that at brandbuildersgroup.com/summit call. brandbuildersgroup.com/summit call. Hope to talk to you soon. On with the show.
You are about to meet someone, my friend, John Jantsch, who has a reputation for being one of the most practical marketing strategists in the world for small business owners. He and I actually met years ago. We shared the stage at an amazing event called Social Media Marketing World, which we love. Our very close mutual friend, Jay Baer, introduced us. And then over the years, we've just kind of known of each other. And John is the author of several books. Duct Tape Marketing, I guess you would say, is maybe his flagship book. Duct Tape
Right.
Marketing has been, it's become a kind of like a main ubiquitous term in the marketing world, which we'll talk a little bit about. And he also has an agency. They do done-for-you work. They work with companies, all over the place. He's been featured in all types of major media, spoken at large events. He's spoken for TED. And he's just a really amazing guy. And he also has one of the biggest marketing podcasts in the universe of iTunes. And so we connected recently at an author mastermind group that joined up, and I thought you gotta meet John if you don't know him. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I'll give my first personal branding tip. You introduced me as one of the world's most practical small business marketing experts. That was actually a line I made up and started saying and saying and saying. Now, obviously, you kind of have to deliver on that. But it was sort of a self-proclaimed title that over time I sort of made happen. But that's my first branding tip.
I love that because I think, do you know Sally Hogshead?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so Sally's amazing, and everyone's always like try to be outside the box. But she taught me this lesson: when you're trying to market your business, you actually want to put yourself inside a box.
Yeah.
Something that people can clearly define as like you're the person on this, and most of that, especially when you first start, you just make it up, and then it becomes real.
Well, again, I think you have to deliver on it, but you're the one who gets to at least frame it and define it. I mean, whether it's true or not, it'll be told by how the market perceives it. But framing it, defining it. One of the things I think that's beautiful about doing that too is that a lot of people have come and gone with this platform or that platform, and being like, oh, I'm going to be the early mover on that. I think when you have a point of view, about here's what I believe, sometimes some of that stuff becomes, not that relevant. I mean, platforms come and go. For example, I've said marketing is a system, and that it starts with strategy before tactics, and that's been my mantra for 25 years now. And frankly, it's independent of any of the platforms coming and going, because I believe that will never change when it comes to, working with and consulting with small businesses.
Totally. And so can you take us to I know this is like kind of the original work, but Duct Tape Marketing, can you just tell us what the premise is and what that's all about? Because I think it's super relevant here.
Well, so I'll just give you, and I can do this pretty quickly, but the whole backstory. I started my own marketing consulting firm about 30 years ago. I right out of college worked for an ad agency for about 5 years and said, any dummy can do this. I'll launch my own business. And
how every entrepreneur starts.
Exactly. I had no idea.
Any idiot can do this on their own.
I had no plan. I knew I could hustle work. And so I got projects, big companies, big projects, little companies, little projects, and took whatever came along. And at some point I realized I really like working with small business owners. They just, you're working with the person, not necessarily a department, or a company. And I just really love that. But they were also really frustrating because, I'd had kind of agency training and I was like, well, this is how you do it. And, they don't have the same budgets or attention spans or, or anything. And so one day I just said, look, I'm going to create a way where I can walk into somebody and say, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you're going to do. Here are the results we hope to get. And by the way, here's what it costs. Do you want it? And, after the first 3 people said, like, where have you been? I realized that in trying to solve my frustration, I was actually tapping into what is still today one of the greatest frustrations for entrepreneurs and business owners. It's very hard to buy marketing services because everybody's selling a piece of it, or this idea of the week or that idea of the week, and so they just kind of lose control of it. And so the fact that somebody was kind of bringing them a package called marketing, made a ton of sense. Because I was sort of productizing, if you will, a service of marketing, I thought it had to have a name, it had to have a brand, and John's consulting service didn't really cut it, and so I just on a whim, quite frankly, started calling it Duct Tape Marketing, and it was because of my years of working with small business owners. It kind of was this idea of, look, you're making it happen. You're making it up every day. Some days it feels like, it doesn't have to be, always have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to be pretty. It just has to work. And I think a lot of people kind of associate that sort of practical idea, with the actual tool of duct tape. So that was the metaphor that I was really, really trying to play off of. And it just, for a lot, there's a strange affection in the US at least, and maybe in Canada too, with duct tape. So it kind of played on that sort of fondness that some people have, even jokingly, but also really kind of hit home with the sort of practical nature of, let's just get this thing to work.
Yeah, so I love that. It also has kind of the like double entendre, if you will, of stickiness, which is like what you want your marketing to be. Yeah. But when you say it just has to work, I think there is like this myth, because we've been small business owners several times, we've been startups several times, that it's like you think that, there's these large companies, or let's say like a multi-7-figure and 8-figure company that, gosh, they just have all these beautiful marketing systems figured out and dialed in, and it's like they freaking don't. It's a mess. We interviewed Amanda Tress, not that she's not a mess at all, but she admitted she's got a $50 million business and she's running on spreadsheets. Like it's crazy of going, it doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to work. So I love that, and I think that's that is duct tape, right? Just duct tape it.
And I'm not necessarily saying that's the best way. I'm just tapping into reality. That sure. Just as you mentioned, that just is the reality of how so many people do it. There are definitely more beautiful ways in which to build a business if you've got everything figured out, if you've got the funding, if you've got the patience, if you're not stressed out. There's a lot of beautiful ways to build a business. But what I was trying to tap into was the fact that people are saying, yeah, that is what we're doing. Can we actually take that and turn it into a system?
So relating this to personal brands, because I know you work with all different types of small businesses, but you are an example of like the kind of people we serve: authors, speakers, consultants. I feel like we have a lot. I'm going to take advantage of a free coaching call here, because a lot of our members, they've been doing is they've been building their product, right? So they're in that stage where it's like, okay, they've been wrestling with building their product, whether it's a physical product or it's a video course or a coaching program or whatever. And then one day they go, oh, I'm done building it. Now I actually have to do something to tell people that it's here.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about both the mindset and then also maybe some of the tactics, tactical advice that you would give to somebody in that moment? It's like, okay, I now have my widget. What's the first thing I should go do to like create my first customer, or my first lead from marketing?
Well, so botch this, but there is a Chinese proverb that goes something like, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is 20 years ago. But if you didn't do it, then today is the best time to plant it. So my point in that is that, and I know that a lot of things have changed in, the world, in the last 20 years, but, I started building a following before I had any idea what I was going to sell to them. I started talking to people. I started educating. I loved sharing my ideas. I had clients, and so I talked about what worked for my clients. But that's the first bit of advice, which doesn't really answer your question. But that's the first bit. Don't wait till you have a perfect product. Go out and start talking to people. Go out and start seeing if it resonates. Go out and get their advice. I know some of the first couple of courses I built with potential customers. I said, hey, come on in here. Here's what I'm thinking. Oh, that doesn't work for you. Okay, what if we did this? And then it was like, okay, here's round two. So start doing it with people as opposed. I know I had a couple products that I sat in a room and launched. I said, oh no, the world needs this, and then it was like, press go, and like nothing, nobody wanted it. It didn't make sense. It was the wrong price. It was all those things. So that to me is what you have to do is you have to actually just go start talking to people. Even if you're not done, here's what it's going to be, here's what it's going to look like. Here's what the problem it solves. That again, still probably haven't answered your question directly, but I think
it's important because it's like the pre-launch, right? Is to go build the audience before you build the product. Like that's a great thing. And it sounds like the way you built the audience was basically like just teaching and talking about what you were interested in and asking questions and like sharing what and then people started following, and then it was like they were there when you were ready to launch something.
That's right. But I think also, you get kind of, people talk about beta users, the early adopters. You get people that actually help you improve it, what it is that you're building. And that's the part that I love. And then those people, generally speaking, become evangelists too, not just buyers. There was a practice right when AdWords maybe kind of came around. And so this is probably 20 years ago, and I don't think it's taught anymore. But I think it's instructional. When you could buy clicks back in the good old days for about 10 cents, on some things, a lot of marketers would actually put up landing pages and advertise products and courses and ebooks and all kinds of stuff that didn't exist. And then literally would take some of those early opt-ins and early buyers and create the product with, they found out which one was the most popular. Again, probably shady, probably a bit unethical, certainly not affordable today, because of the online space has changed so much. But I think it's instructional in that when I start thinking of an idea, I start writing about it as though not like I have this course, but here's the premise behind this idea. Here's the problem I'm trying to solve. Here's what I think is broken. And you start immediately getting feedback from people about, not only is that a good idea or a bad idea, but maybe, how to actually go about solving it.
Yeah, and I hear you kind of saying that's kind of similar to what you did. You weren't like landing pages for collecting money for things that didn't exist, but you were doing that early adaptive, like come in here, be a beta user, and then test it out.
You and I have a mutual friend, Mike Michalowicz, that I think just has done something brilliantly over the years. He gets an idea, for a book. In his mind, his product really is his book. He gets an idea for it and he just starts talking about it, gets a group of people interested in the idea, and then he just holds a 2-day workshop. And they actually come and they build, how this idea would work, which ultimately turns into his book, which then ultimately turns into a course, which ultimately then turns into a consulting or coaching licensing, program. And he's replicated that model about 5 times now, and his, what he's personally selling is the book itself. And, he's selling hundreds of thousands of copies of books now, using this kind of proven method of actually having before he even writes one word, or maybe before he even pitches it to a publisher, he's got a really good book written or outline created, and even some case studies maybe for the book, which then again, his books explode into other things. But I think that's a really informative model.
Yeah. So let's say you do that. Is there anything that you go, whether it's a book or a course or whatever, I think that there's this fear, for every entrepreneur is going, oh crap, like what do I do? Because there's so many, like you said, there's so many platforms, right? So it's like, well, should I start a podcast? Should I do Google ads? Should I buy Facebook ads? Should I have a Facebook group? Should I send emails? Should I go knock on doors? Should I like, how do you navigate that list of a bazillion things you could do to figure out what you should do?
Sure. It's if you've built a product and now you're facing like, I'm not going to eat unless I sell some of this, go out. I mean, to me, the easiest thing is go out and find people who already have a list, who already have a following, and figure out a way to add value to their, community. I mean, that's the fastest way. If I came to you, or you've got a community, and I came to you and I said, hey, I've got this thing that'll be great for your community. We can revenue share, or I'll give it away, or whatever it is. That's the fastest way to start building some things.
So just people find an audience that already exists, that has an appetite for what you're offering.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fastest way. It doesn't necessarily mean that everybody, you go, oh, I'm going to go talk to this person who I know has 2 million followers, and they're going to put, obviously it's a relationship building. It's, I've got to have something of value for that person. It's not just about the money. It's about serving their community, hopefully. So, I mean, that's the fastest way. But ultimately, what I believe still today, even though a lot of people talk about Facebook and communities and groups and all that stuff, focus on building the list. The email list is pretty much going to be everything for you. So if you're going to be on Facebook, if you're going to have a podcast, if you're going to be doing videos on YouTube, somehow connect those back to a reason why somebody would give you their email address, because that's, I'm not saying that just build an email list and it's like minting money, but that's how you build the community, the long-term connection to the community that you own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that I love this idea of the first. So the email list certainly is like always really good reminder. Also, though, I do think people were so consumed with the idea of building a following, which, I don't know for you, but for me, every time we've done it, and we've now done it 3 times from scratch, it's been slow and painful and hard, and it takes a long time.
That's right.
And it's like, what else are you going to do? You got to do it. But if there is a shortcut, it's going, who has this? Who has my audience already? And what can I do for that community and that person to get in front of them? I mean, that is so profound. I think it's simple, but it's easy to overlook that your audience exists somewhere already.
Well, and it doesn't just have to be, because a lot of times people immediately think of, who are the A-listers, that everybody knows, and they want to go to those folks. But there are all these companies out there. I started my first big sort of success in that realm of kind of partnering. And again, this was early on, and where not everybody was producing all kinds of educational content, but I produced an ebook for a software company. Well, they didn't know I produced it for them, but I produced it, reached out to them and said, hey, all of your customers are small business owners. They're all trying to learn how to market. If they're better marketers, they're going to buy more of your software. And so what if we did this thing where we co-branded this ebook? And I probably got 30,000 subscribers, over a 5-year period from that relationship. There are lots and lots of people that need, what you have to say, and have an audience that if you can make it right for them, make it valuable for them, then, you'll be invited in, as a friend. And effectively, I mean, I did tens of thousands of dollars of business with those people. They're resellers, because I was seen as this expert, and it just, it really launched in a lot of ways, it really launched the commercial side of duct tape marketing from a consulting side.
See, I love that because everyone goes, yeah, I want Tony Robbins to send an email blast for me. Well, okay, it might it might take a minute, right, for that to happen. But these companies, or the other one would be like associations, right? Associations are desperate for content and training for their members. And if you can show up and do a free training, now it's like their email list became your email list.
Exactly.
And it actually could become that way if you capture those emails. I mean, and when you do it with a company, they're not trying to sell the same thing you are. They're just trying to serve the same people you are.
That's right. And in a lot of ways, the way they're going to look at it is, hey, this is work we don't have to do, and it's a value add for our customers. Whereas the other influencers, like I got only so many times I can send to my list, right? And
right.
so the calculus for them is going to be much more what's in it for me. That whereas the company, it's going to be much more theoretically, it's still going to be what's in it for me, but the math is different. What's in it for me is I don't have to do it now, and
you're not both trying to get the same thing.
Exactly.
You're both going for different things.
Exactly.
And I think that's amazing. Every company has a database of customers, and you might have a zero email list, but you go. Exactly. Somebody is servicing small businesses. Someone is servicing, single moms. Someone is servicing, gym owners in some way. And, you just figure out who you get in front of. So I really love that. If there is a shortcut, that would be it.
Yeah. Everybody starting a business should be their first marketing. I mean, they got to build all the other stuff, but that's the jump start.
So what about paid? Can we talk about, actually, before we get to paid, let's talk SEO, because you actually have a book on this. You know something about SEO. And what do you think small business owners need to know about SEO? Because it's kind of like this ninja tactic, like high level tech thing, but there's a lot of simplicity to it too. And I thought it was interesting when I found out you had written a book on SEO, because I was like, gosh, in my mind, I almost think of it as like a big business strategy. And yet, you obviously see the application for super small businesses.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you think about the services that you buy, or, you travel a lot back when people used to do that, you'd come into a town. It's like, I want to find a restaurant. I want to get my hair cut. I want to, whatever. I mean, we turn to a search, right, for that. And, because you're holding a phone, Google says, oh, you're in that town, and 3.4 miles, you can find this thing. Well, that's all SEO. I mean, that's, if local businesses aren't showing up in the maps pack, or the various ways that they show up in search, I mean, they don't exist in a lot of cases. So it is certainly a big business strategy. It's in every business strategy, just because of the buying behavior. Today we all I would guess that 90% of purchases today start with some form of search. I mean, if somebody came to you and said, you need to hire this duct tape marketing company. I mean, they're amazing. You're certainly going to turn online. You're not going to pick up a phone and call me. I mean, you're going to do a search, and maybe if you're trying to figure out if I'm legit or not, you're going to deeply search and see what other people are saying and stuff. So at any rate, SEO is hyper important for every business. Probably more important for smaller businesses who don't have, budgets to blast over the airwaves.
So when you talk about the budget, so what do I need to do as a small business owner, right? Like, I don't have a bunch of money to do paid. Like, what do I actually need to do when it comes to SEO?
So truthfully, SEO is a long-term game, and a lot of people don't want to tell you that. A lot of people want to tell you, oh no, you hire us to SEO this stuff. Well, what you have to realize is that search engine optimization is a strategic combination of your website, your structure of your website, your content, and then some technical factors. It's not like black magic. If you don't have great content, if your website's not set up the right way, for that content to be structured and displayed, and then there's some little off, are there other signals out there in the world of other people saying your content's great? I mean, that's really the part that people miss. I mean, it begins and ends with good, relevant, useful content that's structured in the right way. If you hired me and you don't have much content or it's a bunch of crap, I can't help you, from an SEO standpoint. And that's the part that I think a lot of people misunderstand. The optimization part is to take good, useful content that's structured in a way that makes sense to Google and to send more signals. That's the optimized part. So there are on-page things that you can do in terms of internal linking, amount of keyword structure. There's a goofy thing called structured data and a goofy thing called metadata, which we won't get into. But it's all pretty simple stuff, and it's gotten simpler because, hey, people have written plugins that make all that stuff, happen for you. So all of the on-page stuff is just a matter of paying attention. And then there's clearly some what people call off-page signals, and those are just do other people like you? Or other people linking to your content? Do you get mentioned in social media, or does your content get mentioned in social media and shared and circulated? I mean, those, that when it really comes down to it, it's great content on your site. It's then, content that's linking back to your content on other people's sites. I mean, that's really it. And to me, it all begins and ends with content that is useful, based on what people are searching for.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned something weird. Going back to the on page, you said there's something weird called data. What?
Structured data.
What is structured data?
Well, it's just some HTML code that tells Google very specifically what something is. This is a book. This is a person. This is an address. This is a local business. This is a blog post. This is a list of products. This is a list of reviews. I mean, so it's a whole set of different types of data that if you add, the HTML code, to the data that's under the hood, in your website structure, it's just another very potent round of information, for Google.
So it's kind of similar to metadata, although metadata can be visible like on search, but it's just like you're saying, it's a signal back to Google saying, this is what lives here on this page.
Well, and maybe this is what this specific item is. So a lot of times, like if you do a search, a real easy example is you do a search for, a movie theater, or best new movies in 2020. And you'll see a list that is basically structured data. Here's all the movies, here's the movie times, here's the price, here's the theaters, so it's a table, that's presented in your search results. Well, that table is constructed, using structured data to tell Google this is what this stuff is, because, there could be something like, duct tape marketing. Is that a book? Is that a podcast? Is that a blog? Is that a company name? And so a lot of what you're using structured data to is to not leave Google to guess, what it is that thing is, that it's, you're saying, no, I'm talking about the book.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So when you see like the little tables that pop up, it's just basically directly populating stuff right off of sites based on what the structured data like input is. That's or right. Signal is.
That's right. And we've had structured data for a long time. If you think about lists, lists are basically structured data. You see, but whether it's a numbered list or an unordered list with bullet points, that's structured data, the concept of structured data. But now we're basically just putting HTML code around all that stuff to say, this is a list of books. This is, this is a list of authors.
Interesting. So, and so it's like for each element almost on a page, you could have some structured data because you would have like your H1 tags, H2 tags, meta tags, the page title, the URL. Those are all things that are signals. But then this is interesting. I've never heard this before.
We've gotten very deep in the weeds here, but the good news is, as I said, there are some.
But you're the most practical small business marketing expert.
That's right. But the good news is there are WordPress plugins if your site's on WordPress that you add to the site, and essentially then every page you'll have the ability to fill in elements that you want. So you're not actually having to get in there and write HTML code yourself. Yeah. And it's, for local businesses, I mean, it actually brings in not only the address, but the latitude and longitude, of their business. I mean, so it's a very, very specific signal to Google. Yeah, this is a local business.
Wow. Yeah, that is awesome. Well, so there you go. I mean, there's a lot to learn here, and you see, there's the strategy, and then there is the tactics.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thanks for this, John, and for this introduction. I mean, super, super interesting and useful stuff. Where should people go if they want to connect with you or learn more about duct tape marketing and the stuff that you do?
Sure. So the easiest place is just pretty much everything I've written for the last couple of decades. You could find at ducttapemarketing.com, and that's DUCTTAPE marketing.com.
Mm-hmm. Do you own Duct Tape, like DUCK tapemarketing.com?
Well, just plug it into a search engine someday and
see what happens.
But I bought pretty much every variation of the spelling, and so they all just redirect to the
right spot.
Yeah.
So you get a spelling lesson. You get a bonus spelling lesson as well as
because more than one time, when I've been out there speaking in the world and whatnot, and they'll have in the program, it didn't happen in social media marketing world, but it has happened before. Where people will put John Jantsch, DUCKTAPE marketing.
Yeah. Well, the D and the F are also right next to each other on the keyboard,
yeah, that's right.
That could be a bad mix-up.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's right. Well, the confusing part is there actually is a brand of duct tape that is the duct brand. Yeah. So because do you want a history lesson on where the name duct tape marketing, or not duct tape marketing, but duct tape came from? We probably don't have time for that. We might have to do that on another one.
I mean, if you go for it, if you think it's relevant.
It's not relevant at all, but
well, then definitely do it. I mean, that's what we're really interested in, is the irrelevant stuff.
So World War II, the Army commissioned a company to make some tape that would help them repair the tops of those canvas Jeeps. It had to be waterproof, had to really stick. And so it was called something like GP47, fix it or something. And all the GIs just called it duct tape because of it was waterproof, so they were talking about DUCK. After World War II ended, we started putting air conditioning in homes. And so that was, all the venting and everything that ran through those homes. And some of these ingenious GIs said, hey, you know what? This stuff actually seals the seams and the gaps between DUCT ducts in their air conditioning. And so it officially became duct tape because it was used in that fashion. Nobody uses it for that anymore, but now it's sort of universally loved as a fix-it for everything. So I don't know if that was interesting or not. But
that was super interesting. I mean, that is like, what? That's it. You just won somebody $100,000 on a future episode of Jeopardy or something. And you remember John Jantsch on the Influential Personal Brand podcast when you send us a little referral fee when you get that quiz question right. That's I had never heard that, and I have actually wondered that before. Where in the heck does this name come from? Well, we'll put a link there to ducttapemarketing.com. John Jantsch, which is pronounced like pants but spelled a little bit different. But if you search duct tape marketing, you will find John, and obviously we'll link up to him, all of his social profiles on our blog and stuff. Well, John, thank you for being here and just for your consistent commitment to marketing principles that have lasted, outlasted all sorts of different platforms, over a couple decades. And, certainly your personal brand has stood the test of time, which is a great testament. And we're so glad to have you.
Thanks, Rory. It was a pleasure.